Throughout history there have been many kings and queens who suffered a very painful death. Henry VIII in his final moments was a shadow of his former self, and Elizabeth I would become very down and depressed as her death approached. But one king's death which was very painful was William III, or William of Orange, who came to the throne as the King of England following the ousting of James II. His ascension to the throne became known as the Glorious Revolution, and shortly after William arrived on English soil with his wife Mary II, the king stepped down in favour of the Prince of Orange. William was a staunch Protestant, and the fact James II was a Catholic gave him a huge amount of support in England and Britain. But in 1702 William III died, and it was then his sister-in-law and cousin Anne who became the Queen Regnant of England, Scotland and Ireland. He was the only member of the Dutch House of Orange to ever reign over England. But what is his story of his death? Join us today as we look at this, and to support our channel, please make sure to subscribe. The Glorious Revolution, also known as the Bloodless Revolution, resulted in the deposition of King James II and the accession of his daughter Mary II and her husband William III, the Prince of Orange, to become the King and Queen of Britain. James II's overt Catholicism caused chaos across the country and alienated much of his population, and he also changed the rules regarding religion across the country. William of Orange was James's nephew and also his son-in-law, and William was worried at the time about what James was doing to England. There was also concern in the country at the time about the power of France in Europe, and England were not really doing anything about this to challenge it. But then a great European coalition had begun to form to stop any aggression, but it did depend upon England. But William had been in touch with leading English politicians for around a year before, and he was being approached to invade England and to oust James II. A group known as the Immortal Seven sent William an invitation, and the intention was there for William to come to England and to invade and oust the current king. William landed at Brixham on the southwestern coast of England on the 5th of November 1688, and his fleet was larger than the Spanish Armada. Support for James dissolved when William arrived, with many officers defecting from the English army, and James tried to resist the invasion to begin with, but these attempts were futile. Then negotiations were underway. Slowly William advanced to London, collecting support, and James II fled to France, with William III being crowned, alongside his wife Mary II. The revolution had occurred almost without any bloodshed, but there was resistance in Scotland and Ireland. The Jacobites for decades would try to restore James to the throne, and also his heirs, after his death, but William oversaw a number of different military campaigns. But on the 28th of December 1694, Mary II died from smallpox, and this left William to rule alone in the country, with the king greatly mourning his wife. When he was the sole monarch, his popularity did wane and plummet across the country. However, he would rule for around 8 years, until William himself got ill and died. It has been attributed for many centuries that the king died from complications emerging from a fall from a horse, but this has been debated. William III, it's believed, suffered from issues regarding his lungs for some time that may have attributed to his death along with his fall. On the early morning of the 21st of February 1702, whilst riding inside the gardens of Hampton Court Palace, the king fell from his horse after it stumbled upon a molehill, and the king was then thrown violently off his steed. He landed hitting the ground and instantly shattered his collarbone. The fall was so bad that it could have killed him or broken his neck, but he then went straight to the royal doctors, where his collarbone was then set instantly by them. However, after his collarbone had been set, William then demanded that he should be taken to Kensington Palace, which was 12 long miles away. He was taken by carriage ride, which was very rough and would have caused further damage to his injury. This must have been painful for William III, and the bone then had to be reset again after he arrived at Kensington. But following this, he then went into the King's Gallery, and he sat down and fell asleep by an open window, watching what was going on. It was a cold February afternoon, and William then awoke, feverish and feeling rather ill, having sat in the draught for some hours, in a lot of pain. Chances are that the adrenaline from his injury was also wearing off, and over the next few days he continued to get much worse. William III continued to have meetings with his advisers and government, and his favourite remained by his side when he took a turn for the worst in March. At this point the king then asked for his old friend, Hans Bentinck, who he had fallen out with, and this man arrived before the king had his final moments. The king's last words were, "I draw towards my end." But at around 8 or 9 in the morning, on the 8th of March 1702, William III died. He was 51 when he had died, but following his death the king's body was then subjected to a post-mortem, which took place 2 days after he died. In attendance were the king's favourite doctors and 4 surgeons, and the post-mortem report said a significant amount of issues happened inside his body. It was said, the thorax or chest we observed, that the right side of the lungs adhered to, the pleura, and the left much more, from which, until separation, then issued forth a quantity of purulent or frothy serum. The upper lobe on the left side of the lung and the part of the pleura next to it were inflamed to a degree of mortification, and this we look upon as the immediate cause of the king's death. From the ventricles of the heart and the greater blood vessels arising out of them were taken several large tough flesh-like substances of kind called polyps. The heart itself was of the smaller size, but firm and strong. It was then concluded that the king died from pneumonia, and that his lungs were in a very bad way. He had suffered throughout his life with chronic asthma, and William, despite falling off the horse, was terribly ill at this time. It was said of his collarbone injury that upon laying bare the right collarbone, we found it had been broken near the shoulder, and well set. Some extravased blood was lodged above and below the fracture. So the bone had been set, and it was actually said that this was healing, but it was from pneumonia that the king succumbed to, and not necessarily the riding accident that he did have. It was certainly not ideal for the king, but it would not have been his explicit cause of death. Following his death, the Jacobites toasted to the mole, saying he was a gentleman in the black velvet waistcoat who led William towards his death. But in the years following his wife's death, the king had ruled alone, and he had been the target of a number of assassination attempts, which were unsuccessful. He knew he was despised as he was a foreign ruler, being a Dutchman sitting on the English throne. He felt more secure with other Dutchmen around him, but this made him even more unpopular. He was also accused of much gossip regarding his love life, and there were a number of rumours spread around court about him. But to those outside of his circle of friends, the king was considered cold and rude, but he was a man who took the death of his queen incredibly hard, and William's death had little impact across the country. He was allegedly buried without any ceremony in the middle of the night in Westminster Abbey, but then Queen Anne came onto the throne. Thanks for watching. To support our channel, please make sure to subscribe, and once again, thank you so much for watching.